Morning, fourth graders. We are going to start Unit 3, which is going to be a focus on division. And today we're going to start with some problems very similar to our warm-up the last few weeks of multiplication in Unit 2. And so it should look pretty similar. We're going to do some dividing with remainders, and then we'll get into some larger numbers as well. And so you're going to need a lot today for your whiteboard, and we're going to be working in pages 137 to 140 in your workbook, so make sure you have those things available. So last unit we talked a lot about inverse operations and opposites. Actually, in the first two units we have, and we mainly focused on addition and subtraction and being able to check our work with each other, right? And so when you do subtraction, you can always check it with addition, and the opposite is true as well. Well, today we're going to look at the relationship between multiplication and division. And multiplication and division are also inverse operations, and we're going to have a way to check our work to make sure that the work we're doing is correct. And so first, let's look at different ways that you can write out a division problem, the symbols that we use. All of these problems are the same. They're all 12 divided by 4. We have some that use fraction bars, but that also means division. This symbol is one of the most commonly used division symbol. So we'll use a lot of this, and we'll use a lot of this, these symbols today. Mostly the first one, and throughout this whole unit, we don't use too much with fractions yet, but that is another way that you could write a division problem. And so let's look at the parts of these division problems and some vocabulary that goes with them. And so this is on page 137 for you right now. In the last unit, we talked a lot about factors and products. So not a lot, but we did talk a lot about products, right? And we said the answer to a multiplication problem is a product. Well, the two numbers you multiply together to get to that product are what we call factors. You could use that same idea with division. And because they are inverse operations, we know that the two factors are going to multiply together to get your answer of the product. But we look at it differently with division. We say the largest number inside, the number we start with, the whole group, is going to be the dividend. And then the divisor is the number of groups that we're trying to spread things out into. That's going to be the number on the outside, and our answer is what we call the quotient. So the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Quotient is the answer to a division problem. There's a few different ways that you can look at it here. So if you start with 12, say, bottles on the table, right? You have 12 bottles of water, and you want to divide those into groups of 3. Well, you want to know how many groups that would be. Well, right here's a group of 3, so you have 1. Here's another group of 3. Here's a third group of 3. And a fourth group of 3. So you have 4 equal groups. That's really important with division. How many equal full groups can you find? So there's 4 equal groups here. So we could check that by saying 3 times 4 is 12. Well, we could do that same thing and think of it as an array, right? Or I mean, I guess the first one was an array, but this is rows and columns, so that array combined together. And so we want to know how many rows of 4 are there. Okay, so how many rows, if we put this into 3 rows, how many are going to be in each row? So, well, here's a row, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's a second row, and here's a third row. There are 4 in each of our rows. It's another way to look at it, and then you could check that and say 3 times 4 is still 12. Well, in the area model is one that you worked a lot with in 3rd grade as well, and some so far this year, and that's what a lot of our multiplication was. We know that when you take the length and the width and you multiply them together, you're going to get the area in the middle. So 3 times something needs to get you to 12. We know that would be 3 times 4 is 12, but you can find it using the inverse. 12 divided by 3, these two pictures showed us, that's going to be 4. Sometimes it doesn't work out perfectly where you don't have those equal groups all the time. And you're going to get something that is left over, a leftover amount. So let's look at this problem. It says if you have 14 juice boxes arranged in groups of 3, how many juice boxes will be left over? See, that's important. So you want to put all your juice boxes in groups of 3. So you have 1 group of 3, 2 groups of 3, 3 groups of 3, 4 groups of 3. So your quotient is still 4 right here. You have 4 equal groups of 3, but you didn't have enough for a 5th group. And so we would call that our remainder. And so you would say you have 4 whole groups with 2 left over, but in division we like to say 4 remainder 2, and we abbreviate remainder by just drawing an R there. Okay? And so now we're going to see some problems that look a lot like our warm-up. We want to try not to go over. Remember in our warm-ups, our quick practice, we had a lot of problems like this, and we want to make sure that we stay under. So let's look at how we can do these, and then we'll get into checking them with multiplication. So I want to figure out what 19 divided by 2 is. Well, what I could do is I can go to my 2's column, and I can travel over. I can skip count by 2 all the way until I get to a number close to 19, but not over. Well, 20 goes over, and so when I get to 18, that's the number that I want to get to, but I got to figure out 2 times what gets me to 18. I go straight up the purple column, and I see it's 2 times 9. So the way I would write this is my quotient is 9. Well, 9 times 2 is 18. I found 9 equal groups of 2, so I'd have to take that out of my total, and I'd have 1 left over. So my remainder is 1. Well, now I want to do that with 50 divided by 7. So I'd start in my row of 7s, and some of you know your facts really well, and you don't need to do this, right? And you just know, oh, 7 times 7 is 49. That's as close as I can get, but maybe you don't. So you travel over, skip count by 7s until you get too high. Whoop, 56 bigger than 50, so go back 1. You get to 49, go straight up. Oh, 7. 7 times 7 is 49. So I'm going to put 7 up top, 49 below. And now I subtract. I have 1 left over. I can't pull out another whole group of 7, so I know, since this number is smaller than my divisor, I know that I'm doing all right here. Remainder 1. See if we can figure out number 3. And then we want to now check these with multiplication. And so the way we check these with multiplication is we take our answer, our quotient, 5, and we multiply it by our divisor, our smaller number. So our 2 smallest numbers get multiplied. Remember that dot means multiply. But then we also need to add our remainder. So if I was checking number 2, I would say 7 times 7. And then that should be a 7. And then plus 1. So 7 times 7 is 49, plus 1 is 50. So I know, since this matches this, I got it correct. Okay, it should match the large number on the inside. Don't forget to add your remainder. Some kids do that. Okay, go ahead and pause it now and try and work on this page, or you can save it till the end, depending on how your class is going to work. All right, let's go on to page 139. What do you notice in the table when we multiply and divide with zeros? Well, one thing that we see is no matter how many zeros we start with, that's how many we need to end with. So if we don't have any zeros in our top row, we don't have any zeros in our answer, our product. If we have 1 0 in our initial multiplication, we need 1 0 in our answer. Well, if we have 2, we need 2 in our answer, right? The same thing actually happens with division. If you're dividing by the hundreds, well, your answer is going to be in the hundreds as long as you're dividing by the single digit. So if you start with 3 zeros, you're going to need 3 zeros in the end. This pattern is going to help us with today's lesson. There's some tricks that we can use for it. And so let's look at number 15. The problem is really 320 divided by 40. I want to ignore that 0 because I know if there's a 0 in my initial number, I'm going to need to add a 0 at the end. We're going to use that pattern that we noticed from the table. So let's think of this as 4 going into 32, or 32 divided by 4. Sometimes we say goes into, right? Or 4 times what can get me to 32 because they're inverse. But let's think of it now as 32 divided by 4. So I'm going to go over to 4. Here's my row, and I'm going to skip count until I get to 32. Whoop, I scrolled down too far. So I went from 4 to 32, and now I go straight up. Oh, 8 times 4 will get me to 32. So just like I did in the last problem, I would say this is 8. But on the previous page, I had smaller numbers. Now I have bigger ones. Oh, if I have a 0 to start with, I need to add a 0 in. Okay, and so I can look at that and say 80 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32. I need a 0. When I subtract, I shouldn't get anything left, and I don't. And so I know that the inverse of this is going to also be true. 4 times 80, 4 times 8 is 32, plus a 0 is 320. So I know I got that one right. Let's do another one of these. Let's do 16. Let's think of it as 42 divided by 6. Well, let's go to my 6's. 6, 12, 18. Oh, there's 42. It goes into it evenly. There's not going to be a remainder, right? So I go straight up. 6 times 7 is 42. Some of you might have known that. So 6 times 7. But there is a 0 there. So it's not going to be 6 times 7 is 42. It's going to be 6 times 70 is 420. Okay? And I can write that out and check it here. 7 times 6 is 42. Subtract my 420, I have 0 left over. 6 times 70, I'm using the inverse, so I'm going to check it and make sure I'm right. 6 times 7 is 42. 1 0 here, so I should have a 0 in my answer, and I do. Be careful with this one. There's no 0 here, and then you start to get 2 zeros. Use the patterns up above. Okay? So you can either pause it now or finish those problems at the end of this video. Now, we're going to get some work in that doesn't include, and we are on the next page now. I'm sorry, we are on 140. I didn't write that in there. We're going to get some practice with problems that aren't going to work out evenly. So this is a mix of our last two problems. There's going to be a remainder, but now we're using larger numbers. But I want you to think of them the same way that we just did the previous page. So instead of thinking this as 2,106, think of it as just 2,100. And I'll show you why that's going to work out in a second. And so let's try 24. Instead of thinking of this as 8 or 643 divided by 8, let's do like we did on the last one. Let's just call it 640. And then we'll take that 0 off in a little bit. And so I'm going to go to my 8s. And I'm thinking, all right, 8 times what is 64? Well, 8 times 8 is 64. Well, I also know, I see that I have a 0 there. So I'm going to say 8 times 80 should get me to 640. Okay, that's how I'm going to get it started, but now I got to do the next step. So if I have 80 groups of 8 or 80 8s, 8 times 8, we just said was 64, but it's 640 because I'm multiplying 80 times 8, and I subtract, I have 3 left. Well, can I pull out another whole equal group of 8? Remember, it has to be a whole group of 8. No, I can't pull out a whole group of 8, so that is my remainder of 3. Okay? So now I want to check it, though, using multiplication. And remember what I do. I multiply my smaller numbers, and I add my remainder. So 80 times 8. And then I'm going to add in 3, because that's my remainder. And so 8 times 8 is 64. But with the 0, it's 640. Okay, so this is 640, and 640 plus my remainder of 3 is 643. Does it match? Yes, it does, 643. It matches my dividend, so I know my quotient and my remainder are correct here. So we would do the same thing with this problem as well. You would say 300 times 7, and then you'd add in your remainder, which was, we had 6 left over, and that should equal 2,106, and it does. Okay? So think of the next problem, not necessarily as 275, but start with it as 270. Right? Use your chart if you need to, and then do your subtraction when you pull out your groups of 9. All right, so eventually, we're going to start to solve problems like this. That will start tomorrow, where you're starting to do multiple steps, and this is what we're going to call partial quotients. But that'll be tomorrow. So today, I want you to continue with practice problems like this in page 138 to 140, and then there's homework for you in Think Central. Make sure you're asking your teachers if you have any questions. Remember, this is difficult stuff, right? You might not get it the first week or so, but we're going to practice, 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 and you will get it.